I'm Anahita Shams, a journalist with a deeply held passion for wine. I'm flying over some of the most famous vineyards in the world and drinking some of the finest of fine wines. The city of Shiraz has always been at the heart of Iranian winemaking and lends its name to one of the world's most famous wines, Shiraz. What is the connection between winemaking in Iran and the Shiraz we drink today? Is it just serendipity that it's named after an Iranian city, or is there more to it than meets the eye? To find out, I'm going to undertake a journey of discovery. For the story of Persian wine is the history of the origin of wine itself. My country has an ancient tradition of wine culture. I grew up being told the myth of how wine was discovered. A beautiful courtesan at the court of the mythological King Jamshid lost favor. Overwhelmed with pain and sorrow, the courtesan tried to poison herself by drinking juice from a jar filled with fermenting grapes. After experiencing the juice's intoxicating effects, she fell fast asleep. The next morning, the beautiful young lady awoke and she discovered she was no longer depressed, but felt rejuvenated instead. She took her discovery to the king, who became so enamored with this new potion that he accepted her back. She regained the king's favor and wine was drunk in his court. Shiraz wine was exported both east and west, and its many delights were captured in the wonderful poetry of Hafez, who wrote in the 14th century and whose tomb is at the heart of the city. I am flying along the northern Rhone valley, about 50 kilometers south of Lyon in southern France. The reason I've come here is to find out if there is a connection between these Syrah vines and the vineyards of Shiraz. The French believe that Syrah, the grape, was born here in Hermitage, in the northern Rhone valley. Here in these 142 hectares, the finest French Syrah is produced. The vineyard is named after the story of a crusader knight, Gaspard de Sternberg, who was wounded in a battle during the Crusades in the 13th century. Legend has it that on his return he brought back the Persian vine, planted it, and retired from the world, becoming a hermit, hence the name Hermitage.
We did some research and it is a legend and there is no real truth behind, because here we were speaking of the 13th century and we know today that it was more 4 or 5 centuries before the Christ that the vineyard was planted here.
So Syrah is a native French vine, but the story of the name Shiraz is far from over. My final stop on this Shiraz adventure is to America, home to over 1 million Iranians. The United States is the largest wine producer outside of Europe, with 90% of its wine coming from the Sunshine State of California. The history of winemaking in Iran has been long forgotten in the midst of time. But one Iranian has traveled across the globe and brought here to California the hospitality and splendor of Persian culture. Dariush Khaledi is from Shiraz. He's named after the Persian king Darius the Great.
You know, there are many, many good memories that I have from Shiraz. It's a beautiful city and the weather is just perfect, especially in the springtime. The glass of wine came later in Shiraz. They were drinking, I remember as a child, in a sabu or a clay vessel. So that's how they were. And it wasn't just drinking wine. You know, you have to read some poet and talk about Hafiz Shirazi, and about wine. And you know, it wasn't just drinking wine, it was a venture or among the family. I opened the Atlas of the World. There is only one place in the whole world called Shiraz and has a 7,000 years of history of wine growing. So you tell me where the Shiraz come from.
Today, the name Shiraz lives on in the vineyards and wines of the New World. It seems fitting to conclude my quest in California in the Shiraz vineyards of Dariush. Here I feel the spirit of our faraway homeland, and its fabled wine lives on.